I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive stamped on those lifeless things. The hand that mocked them and the heart that fed, on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozyemandias, King of Kings. Look at my works, ye mighty in despair. Nothing besides remains around the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare. The lone and level sands stretch far away." I'm the infamous Orion, and I'm a Schmo.
I'm Tyrell, and I'm also a Schmo.
And this is the Two Schmo Show, ladies and gentlemen. How is everybody doing today?
Woo.
Woo.
I don't know why, but this week feels like we've kind of turned a corner almost. I don't know. Maybe we're just seeing the symptoms of it.
I think we turned the corner a long time ago. This has just been like...
Well, no, like in regard to a specific few things.
Okay, so what are those specific few things, mister?
The big news, as far as I'm viewing it this last week, is what can only, in my opinion, accurately be described as the assassination attempt of Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, that was a thing now, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that is explicitly what it was. It's a guy that broke into Nancy Pelosi's house, attacked her husband, made it very explicitly clear who he was looking for, and it was not her husband, and was then arrested. You know, obviously. Thankfully, it seems like I should probably know his name at this point, but Pelosi's husband will live and doesn't seem to have, at least yet, that we know of, any particularly, severe injuries as a result of it. I mean, like, as far as being hit in the head with a hammer repeatedly tends to go.
Mm, mm.
Um, but there's been some pretty what? Like, it's just gross seeing people try to spin this. Like, we had the events of January 6th,
Yeah.
2021, that we have a very clear picture of what happened. Who was at fault? Who was complicit? Who turned their backs to let it happen? In spite of all of the spin that conservative media and their various puppets tried to do at the time, claiming, oh, it was Antifa, it's a false flag, all that kind of bullshit. We know that's all bullshit. We know what happened. These people were conservative GOP card carrying members, for as close of a thing as that is, bent specifically on overturning the election by any means, including, not even including, explicitly by the use of force to prevent the certification of that election. And now we have, like, this isn't the first one either, How many, I can't even count the number of, like, throwaway, it's like hell absurd that they're throwaway articles over the last 2 years of people with guns or cars or whatever trying to gain access to Congress, the
Yeah.
White House, that just show up and try to do something and are, of course, stopped because there's a Secret Service everywhere. And they do their jobs pretty fucking well when they get the chance to. And just so happened that this individual found somebody who didn't have a Secret Service detail, which is probably going to be changing now going forward for a lot of fucking people. Um, And the, you know, conservative media pundits are right back at it, trying to spin it in some of the most disgusting ways possible.
What you don't understand, Kyril, is that wasn't an intruder. It was a male prostitute, and he just got caught.
I haven't even clicked into this because it's so disgusting. But like what day, how many days has it been since Elon was forced by law to give up a pretty fucking substantial amount of his own. It's been 3 fucking days.
3
It's
days.
only been 3 days. And he's already trying to torpedo it in the stupidest way possible by spreading these blatant, just conspiracy crap. Okay. I don't want to get into any of these like actual stories because they're awful. The only truth here is that a guy broke into their house with intent to cause harm to Nancy Pelosi, didn't find her, and started beating on the next closest person that he could find.
Found the closest Pelosi he could get his hands on.
He did. Uh, and Elon Musk links a conspiracy theory website claiming that what is this? There's a tiny possibility there might be more to this story than meets the eye. Talking about how the awful truth, Paul Pelosi was drunk again. Because, yes, whenever anybody gets drunk, they go into a violent rage and start beating themselves in the head with a hammer.
Don't
That's what
you?
happens. Yeah, every Tuesday.
Yeah, dude.
And like 3 fucking days, he can't keep his mouth shut.
So, how long do we have till the fall of Twitter, my dude?
That's the hilarious thing. I think it's gonna happen a lot quicker than most people realize. Average users at least. Because most people don't follow this stuff. You know? I was watching a streamer who, this is like that's their job, right?
Yeah.
They are on the internet, putting themselves out there, not having a choice really, but to engage with whatever the discourse or the memes of the day are. And they wanted to go out and just have like a night out with their significant other and go to like a movie or something. And their significant other suggested, just looking at what movies are out there, to go see Morbius, which was it's hilarious, of course.
Yeah.
But this is somebody who's in a committed relationship with a streamer who had no idea about the Morbius memes, right? It's really easy to forget how out of the loop a lot of people are. The majority of people are.
One day,
And
I'm sorry.
no, it's just like we this week.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it. Meta's value, which is Facebook, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, has dropped by more than 70% over the last year. They were $1 trillion company, and they're not even close to that anymore. Twitter has been hemorrhaging capital, I can't think of the term for it, investment money, basically, for basically its inception, because these companies aren't profitable. And they're getting to the point where they are literally running out of people. It's the same with Amazon. Amazon in a lot of towns where they operate literally can't employ people because nobody wants to work for them because they've already worked for them and the conditions are so awful.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to a point here where either these companies are going to die, which they won't because the billionaires and who own them and the millionaires who run them won't let that happen, or they're going to start making some sharp changes.
Okay. So, what are the sharp changes that you're predicting, good sir?
Honestly, the average person won't be able to publicly tweet.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think you are going to have to be a verified person in order to have your content actually reach people broadly through their platform. And that's what our law, at least in the US, is starting to edge towards. And the conservatives that are pushing it there, I think, understand that, but the people who they claim to represent, I can't believe do. You know, if you're Fox News,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And your entire business model has been based on controlling narratives since its inception.
Mhm.
Um, you don't want normal people to be able to share their opinions or their thoughts because that leaves room for doubt. If your voice is the only voice, who is there to disagree with you? And they push it through the guise of regulating these social media platforms, trying to claim that they should be handled in the same way as traditional telecommunications. And what that means is that either these companies change to operate like an internet service provider, where they don't moderate the content on their platform at all, but you pay out the ass to use them. Like, who's happy about paying their internet bills? You know,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to. It's gonna if it goes that direction. The only options that they're going to have will be to um, change their terms of services to require pay, right? Pay to use. Because if you can say anything and post anything, advertisers aren't going to touch that at all. Or it'll go the way of TV stations, where it's tightly controlled with an iron fist. It's not a free speech platform. Only the people that they approve of are allowed to use it.
Can I talk a little bit about free speech platforms cuz I'm getting really sick of that fucking buzzword.
Absolutely.
Like, we know what a free speech platform looks like. If you
Mm-hmm.
pretend you don't know what I'm fucking talking about, you're either A, not on the internet that often, which I kind of applaud, and two, you're fucking lying to yourself because we all know 4chan. 4chan literally
Mm-hmm.
is a free speech platform, and we all know it ain't the best place. If you're trying to present everything as a fucking free speech platform, well, one, you're already got your need. Go to fucking 4chan because why would you want to be held accountable for the fucking things you'd say on a free speech platform? What it really just means is that you're too scared to say your opinions because you know you're going to get a verbal backlash about it. All you're asking for is really cultural acceptance, and you want to be able to do whatever the fuck you want, like a big baby, but that's not how you run a business. Thank you very much. And these are businesses. Go to fucking 4chan if you want something else.
Yep. And we actually got some really good reminders of that this week, where Elon Musk took control of Twitter formally to the
Yes.
tune of $44 billion. And in the wake of that, I got to see if I can find this now. Literally the day after he's been campaigning on making Twitter one of these open platforms, it was confirmed that no banned Twitter accounts will be restored before being reviewed by new content moderation council. So it's not going to be this great reset that he kept touting.
No.
And in the same tune, this exact same movement, there's this like mildly viral piece going around showing a bunch of probably actual children, more likely than not, uh, using Elon Musk's purchasing of Twitter to post slurs, anti-Semitic bullshit, literal Nazi, memes and propaganda and that kind of stuff. And it was this, mildly viral thing of like, oh, this was Elon's Twitter. Look how awful it is. They got banned. All of them got banned like within hours. Because of course they did. Because the terms of service didn't change just because Elon owns it now. It's still the same platform and largely will be. It's not going to be that kind of a change that sends these places down. It's going to be venture capital. That's the word. It's going to be these venture capitalists that eventually are going to realize that they're not getting a return on their money, and they're going to wonder why that is. Or it's going to be advertisers wondering whether it's worth what they're paying to have their brands associated with something so toxic.
Yeah.
We saw it on YouTube, right? That was what caused, in large part, things like the adpocalypse. Was the lax moderation that was going on when it came to videos that started to get ads put on them, you know? And then YouTube kind of realized, oh yeah, this ain't great. And they changed.
This ain't
And
it,
they got a lot
chief.
more restricted. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a weird time to be on YouTube. Like
Mm-hmm.
we and I'm speaking more just you and I and our
Yep.
generation. We exist in such a strange point in internet history because
Mm-hmm.
we're young enough to be early into the internet to know what
Yep.
it was like before Facebook and Twitter and all that. We're also young enough to go to platforms first before they really start gaining a mass audience, and
Yep.
you really start taking for granted how different things are before they start becoming very commercialized on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's been I think at least it's been really interesting to see platforms like TikTok sort of speed run it.
Yeah,
How the internet moves so much faster than any company or government can begin to imagine responding to.
I find it.
Uh,
Sorry.
Sort of on the point, a video is put up by MKBHD, Marcus Brownlee, on his channel talking about metaverse in general. Let me see if I can find the title of it here. Yeah, on Marcus Brownlee's channel. Who cares about the metaverse? And I don't necessarily agree with his conclusions in it, um, but it has a lot of the numbers that I think are really interesting. Stuff like how of the global population, 64% has a Facebook account.
That's not that much.
That is significant, though,
Yeah.
because think about who that isn't, right?
Hmm.
That's everybody. If you're a literal toddler, you're not going to have a Facebook account.
Yeah.
If you're somebody who literally doesn't have internet access, you're not going to have a Facebook account or a smartphone, right?
Yep.
That of the people who could have a Facebook account, the number that don't is as close to zero as it probably ever will get. They hit a ceiling. And now they're trying to figure out what they can do next to exist in a capitalist economy because they're a public company. They have to keep making dividends. And if they're out of people to expand their product to, the only option is to either make a new product or make their product cost more, meaning more ads, like we've seen Twitch and YouTube do in the last couple of months.
I think that's why so many platforms are going for the TikTok model, because TikTok has a pretty good method of like quick videos and then getting you to an ad as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like
Oh
that's
yeah.
why you start seeing Reels on Instagram and Twitter having a very similar feature nowadays,
Well, it's kind of cheating,
isn't it?
and that might sound wrong, but I thought it was hilarious to see how in like the number of page requests is what it is. The number of requests to a website over, I think it was like the past like month or something was it broke down by that it was like 3 months ago, TikTok on average was getting more page requests than Google.
What?
But it's because of that model
Oh, you're right.
where you're watching something for 5 seconds and it's getting a new piece. And then it's getting a new piece and it goes and it goes and it goes. Where with, Google got to first place because it was the only option.
Hmm.
And they're also doing their own bullshit to push people away from using their platform. Um, but they basically had a monopoly on when you needed to search for something versus TikTok's sort of brute forcing it just by having more things need to be requested by design. I think I'll be interested to see this. A couple of years ago, Netflix started doing this where rather than having all of their uh, content stored at one location on one set of servers,
Hmm.
they started to take their most popular stuff and physically distribute it to network hubs to reduce the load at any one point. So if, like you have your Verizons, your Spectrums, AT&Ts, rather than them taking the request from somebody watching Netflix and sending it over to Netflix's servers, Netflix would hand them a literal box to keep in their servers to say, for the most popular stuff, just have them go here instead. And then they could distribute that because it was cheaper to physically move around this information to distribute it than to try and do it over their networks. I do wonder if TikTok is ever going to get to that point because the number of requests and the amount of data, because that's the thing that's different between them and Google.
Yeah.
With a Google search, it's just text for the most part. With TikTok, it's video. Video's not cheap.
Video is a whole different beast.
It is. People, it's really interesting. Linus Tech Tips did a piece recently about this because YouTube has started to make it so that if you want to watch a 4K video, you have to have premium.
Really?
And they changed it. If you have your default set to HD, it goes to 720 now instead of 1080 to save costs because there's so many people using it that with their original model of just kind of being laissez-faire, anything goes. Now that 4K is a thing and it's so much more data than 1080p, they've kind of realized if they keep on the trajectory that they're going, they're not going to be able to support it. Like physically, they won't be able to support it. And so they have to take these measures to kind of contain what's happening. Now that like smartphones have 4K screens in them, right?
Hmm.
If anybody with a smartphone with a 4K screen fires up a YouTube video and it defaults to the highest resolution, there's no way they can support that. And it sort of comes back around where the average user won't even recognize the difference. They just don't see because they're not trained to, right? They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care about tech. As long as they hit the link on their phone and it pulls up what they want and they get to watch it, they don't give a shit. They can't they if they look at it, they can see it, but they don't care to look in the first place to see the difference between something being 720p or 1080p or 4K because it's just not their priority.
So I just looked up the last YouTube video I just watched.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it at 480.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of the times, you just don't notice,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Especially if the audio is good. Audio matters so much more than video in a lot of cases. If you can hear what they're saying clearly, your eyes can very effectively fill in the blanks between what compression and resolution scaling loses. Same way, anybody who's been to a concert knows it, right? You
Yeah.
sit in the back row, you get there, you can't see shit. You give it an hour, you can see fine. Your eyes are very adaptable when your ears aren't. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. It's like we'll be able to sort of sit here and watch Rome burn, so to speak, right?
Well, I just feel like in
Kick up a nice chair.
all businesses are considered healthy when they can continuously grow, correct?
With in the capitalist economies that we have established, yes. They
Yes.
are predicated either on that is the conventional understanding. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are exceptions, but yes.
What I don't know. I don't know how we can continue to grow at this point. I feel like, especially
Oh, we
with what you
can't.
said, we're at a breaking point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are companies that conventionally were never profitable.
Yeah.
They traded on ideas and information, but they still had to show an upward trajectory in order to maintain, to keep the money flowing through them, keep their servers running. They
Hmm.
had to demonstrate that they served a purpose, and it doesn't take a lot to sort of, like to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, right? It only takes, you know, one major piece of US legislation or, the EU's been going pretty damn hard lately, regulating a lot of this shit.
I cannot believe they actually managed to get those chargers passed. That is
Mm-hmm.
huge.
I don't know. It's good lip service.
Yeah. Oh,
You ask the average person, they don't give a shit,
yeah.
right? Like, was Apple's desperate attempt to cling to the Lightning connector really that big of a deal? No, but it made a compelling news article, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really address anything. Anything in the short term, it'll probably be worse because a bunch of people are gonna have to buy new cords. But it's the
Mm.
kind of thing Apple should have done on their own that they didn't. So that's good. But it's like, what does it solve? Not
Nothing.
much. Mm-hmm.
So now that we're thoroughly depressed, where else are we going today?
Uh, train don't stop.
Fuck you.
Oh shit! I just closed a tab by mistake.
Good.
Whatever, doesn't matter. Um, Putin or his mouthpiece, Sergei Lavrov, put out today that Putin is still ready for negotiations regarding Ukraine without giving any real information as to what that meant. Says we, Russia, Putin, are ready to talk with the West about reducing tensions, but only if they are realistic proposals based on an equal approach.
Wait, did they just call
Mm.
Ukraine the West?
What's that?
Did they just refer to the Ukraine as the West?
Uh, so no, they mean more the European Union, the
Okay.
U.S., UK. But I mean, Ukraine is west of them.
Yeah.
No, they mean much more the broader international community because that's where a lot of the financial support that's allowed Ukraine to continue to fight has been coming from.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a pretty
Uh,
shitty opinion of them right now.
yeah. That kind of stood out to me because the key word here is still ready. Because from the start, Russia has been open to negotiations, but they've just always included Russia keeping Crimea, keeping the regions that they previously invaded and are now losing on the Russian border, as well as other reparations that are like, at least from Zelensky and Ukraine's perspective, complete non-starters.
Hmm.
And it's like, why is this news, right? Why is Lavrov going out making this big announcement about this in the first place? And it's because Russia has reneged on the grain deal that they had that allowed Ukrainian ships to transport grain out through the Mediterranean. They are doing a take back on that and are apparently no longer going to be allowing Ukraine grain exports, which will have a major impact on global food supplies. Ukraine has like the majority of global grain comes from Ukraine. And it's shocking to hear that,
Hmm.
because you don't think Ukraine when you think of that sort of thing, but it is. It's where it comes from. The U.S. is going to be the U.S. should be pretty isolated from that in general because we are in a similar situation to Ukraine where we have the land to cultivate, grain like they do, large flat areas. Everyone's aware of what Iowa basically looks like. It's corn and grain, and Ukraine's largely the same way. So while we're isolated, the rest of the world gets hit really hard by that. And we'll have to wait and see what Russia like actually does. Um, if they do anything, like, before they were mining the sea, which is of course not good. And they stopped doing that when they came to this agreement. Um, but yeah, that, from a lay perspective at least, seems to be where this is coming from, where Russia has uh, basically tried to cut off the world's grain and is now being like, just saying, it's a complete coincidence. We're still open to negotiations.
I think that's pretty kind of all Vladimir Putin right there. I think we should meet him at the table and just give him a hearty, please stop. I mean, realistically, what can he say? He can only say no. It's not like he can do anything worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Closing out some tabs here real quick. There we go. Yeah. Um, I would be shocked if he ever actually showed up.
Oh, he wouldn't.
So, would love it to happen. Might actually get some work done if he did, but no, he'd just send his lapdogs.
Yeah, dude.
All right. Some, I don't know, it's not bad news, but news. Germany is going to be legalizing marijuana for recreational use.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One guten Morgen, indeed.
Yeah, it's not, as far as I know, the sale. I don't know the details of it. Um, yeah, here's the thing: they have released their plan to legalize weed. It hasn't happened yet, but yeah, it's good. It is absurd that it hasn't happened before this.
It's absurd. It hasn't happened anywhere else in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Cough, cough.
So hopefully they'll follow through with their plan. And this just becomes like a non-issue thing because it is a non-issue, right?
Yeah,
Like anywhere that has legalized alcohol shouldn't have a problem with legalized marijuana. I would keep sort of just leave it at that. I think that's reasonable.
I agree.
We have the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom officially in the office, Rishi Sunak.
At least it's
Kind of
not
a
Boris.
It's not Boris. It
Yeah.
was never going to be Boris. That's sort of been like the really funny thing that's coming out is he was apparently all of the reporting on that was happening was just all hot air.
Really?
He never had the votes, no,
That's so
which makes
funny.
sense.
Yeah.
They didn't want him back. They already kicked him out once. But yeah, he must have called in some favors or something at like the newspapers, right? So they were talking about it. So other people were talking about it.
Well, I think he's like 2 prime ministers later. I don't want my name to be forgotten.
Yeah. Oh, they won't be so quick. All right. Before we get to Ozyemandias,
Ha.
good pun. Um, two quick things.
Yes.
First, the tragic events that happened in South Korea,
Hmm.
at the Halloween festivities in Ituan. Ituan. I don't actually know quite how that's pronounced, but it gets the idea across all the same. Currently, numbers somewhere about 150 plus uh, fatalities with equal numbers injured from a crowd crush is generally what it's called, where you just have so many people locked into an area so tightly that people get to the point where they can't breathe because they're just being squished so much by the other people. It's horrible. It's the same thing that happened not so long ago at the Travis Scott concert. There's other much worse historical examples. 7 years ago, we were talking about this before the show at the Hajj in Mecca, where thousands of people died as a result of a massive crowd crush that happened there. Uh, and it's the kind of thing that should be avoidable through like proper, city planning type stuff, right?
Hmm.
Making sure that you don't let so many people into your city in certain areas that this kind of thing can happen. But it keeps going on, and it usually gets traced back to some sort of mismanagement. The Hajj was city detours that weren't set up properly. Yeah, the Travis Scott concert where it was just lax inaction by the event organizers that allowed the same thing to happen again, worse. But it's awful, obviously, and just very unfortunate to hear about it continuing to happen.
Severely.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Oh, one more.
Oh,
Uh, because it's just very dumb, but I wanted to mention it. Uh, Clarence Thomas, good old Supreme Court justice, has temporarily blocked uh, Lindsey Graham's subpoena in the Georgia grand jury regarding Trump's interference in their election in 2020.
that sounds like the most Clarence Thomas thing I've ever heard in my life.
It is. It is rampant corruption. And if anything other than Lindsey Graham being ordered to follow through with the subpoena is the result, it will be a pretty like I don't want to be too dramatic, of course, but like that feels pretty definitive for the Supreme Court crossing a line. You know, this is Lindsey Graham claiming that all speech a congressman gives is protected speech under the speech and debate clause
Hmm.
that allows Congress to, function, which is clearly absurd, right? Like there are limits to any sort of speech, especially when you're starting to have, these carve outs. And just being a congressman should not be fact enough to allow any and everything to be said, especially when this is a matter of state law being violated. Uh, and when it is happening in such a blatant way, it's pretty telling that they've kind of this is like this is the end of the line, right?
Yeah.
They're at a bullshit argument, pitching it to the Supreme Court that favors them greatly, and it's in the air as to which way it's going to go. And if it goes down on the side of this subpoena not being enforced, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good for anybody. So let's talk about good old Kanye.
You mean
What's the
the King of
latest?
Kings, formerly known as Kanye West?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is there to say about him? Because he's been on quite the track record these last few days.
Just on a real tear.
Yeah. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the apology?
I was thinking of starting with the Skechers thing. But
Okay.
maybe we should start with the apology because the Skechers thing is just kind of like funny, sad rather than just sad.
He's like, I feel like Kanye's life demands like a almost reality TV show right now because it's just like kind of hilarious how awkward some of these scenarios are coming out as.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, let's start with what he said about George Floyd.
The apology in the biggest air quotes I can possibly, excuse me, possibly make.
Yes. So Kanye went out of his way to apologize for his fentanyl comments about George Floyd, about him dying of fentanyl in the hospital and not from police brutality. And
Mm-hmm.
what was his exact words? I believe we have them here in our little chat here, just so we could quote him.
Yep.
I know what it feels like to have a knee on my neck right now after losing his Adidas deal, specifically from the George Floyd comments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
I'll see if I can find it real quick because there was a bit more to the quote before then, where I've seen people try to basically white knight for him,
no.
uh, being like, "Oh no, he didn't actually mean X, he meant nah." And when you have the full quote, it is very clear what he meant by it. So I'm gonna see if I can pull it up real quick because there's no mincing words about it. It is both uh, him comparing his situation to a person who actually died, lying about how that person died, and he did say that this was him making an apology. Because that's the other thing. Is that people are like, oh no, he's not actually apologizing, and he was. He wasn't obviously, but he said he was.
Yeah. Whether he completed that apology is much to be seen.
Yeah. Mm. Not finding it as quickly as I was hoping to. But yeah, it's like it's gross. It's really fucking gross. One of the main things, just for any of the people who might be listening, and I'm sure they're not going to be here after everything we've said up to now, but on the off chance, um, fentanyl is, of course, a very dangerous drug, right?
No.
Uh, there's a reason that it is in the news as much as it is, but the average person's literacy as to what it actually is or how it works is incredibly low. So often there are articles about, cops that get like fentanyl powder on their hands or they see it on a towel near them in their line of sight that they haven't actually touched and they immediately collapse and go into cardiac arrest and almost die is bullshit.
Mm.
That's not how it works. That's not how fentanyl works. You're not gonna go into cardiac arrest from being in proximity to an opiate like that unless you ingest it or like you have an open cut that you're rubbing the powder in. It just physically is impossible. There's been a lot of really good pieces from doctors breaking down a lot of those stories, um, explaining how just being near fentanyl isn't nearly enough to cause somebody to overdose. Particularly when the other piece of misinformation that goes around is how little it needs to kill you, when that is also a blatant misrepresentation of the facts of it. Because, yes, if you compare fentanyl to just like heroin, it's like a tenth of the amount per weight is needed to cause an overdose. But the people who are selling these drugs aren't giving you 100% pure fentanyl or 100% pure heroin. They're cutting it by huge amounts because, of course, they are. They're not stupid.
Hmm.
They're making money off of this. And that's where fentanyl starts to become a problem because it is much more potent. And these aren't exactly regulated facilities making these drugs. It's a lot easier for mistakes to happen where somebody, measures it out not quite right, or it's not blended quite right, and parts of it are weaker, parts of it are stronger, and people overdose. But what happens when someone overdoses is it is immediate. And that's the key thing with George Floyd's case. Because these disgusting claims that fentanyl was somehow involved are disgusting and scientifically inaccurate. Where when someone overdoses on fentanyl, it is fat because of how potent it is. They cut it so that it can be handled without, wasting thousands of dollars in product. But the actual fentanyl that is in it, when it is ingested, or injected, I guess would be the right word, it acts quickly. So you wouldn't have George Floyd walking around for 15 minutes and then being on the ground for another 8 with some, police thug's knee on the back of his neck before he overdosed on fentanyl. He wouldn't be walking around if he was overdosing on fentanyl in the first place.
So what
There's
you're
just so many layers of blatant misinformation perpetuated by like the local news stations talking out of their ass about stuff they don't know because it's good for viewers.
Mr. Chiral, and I realize how
Yes.
stupid this is going to sound, but I'm saying it for the ironic aspects of it.
Yeah.
Where's your fucking chemistry degree to substantiate your claims?
Let me go dig it out.
Literally calling a guy chiral, and I'm asking if he knows anything about chemistry.
Yeah. I I'm somewhat of a scientist myself.
Oh God.
I found the quote though.
Yo.
This is the full ye quote. I want to apologize because God has showed me what Adidas is doing by what the media is doing. I know what it feels to have a knee on my neck right now.
Oh my God.
That's what it is. Those are his words. He says he wants to apologize.
So when's the apology?
He's still waiting.
Yeah. Can that be like a full album? I will take a Kanye George Floyd like apology album. No, okay.
No.
Let me reach out to like the hip hop community right now. Diss tracks are great, but can we consider apology tracks?
No.
I don't see what's wrong with that. It's just brotherly love, man.
Let's do the sad funny article now.
Oh, the Skechers incident.
Cuz yeah.
Okay, what
Cuz
is your
this is
yeah?
yeah, go ahead.
What is your opinion on Skechers overall as a shoe brand? Because I've never had a great
They're
opinion
fine.
of them.
They're fine. They're affordable, relatively comfortable, not the best quality. Like I have a pair of Skechers like slip-on shoes that I wear pretty often just cuz like they're fine,
I have a pair of
relatively cheap.
I have a pair of Skechers as well. They're my running
Mhm.
shoes. I will say they
Mm.
make pretty good running shoes, all things
Yeah.
considered. But I've never been that big of a fan of Skechers.
Yeah, I've had a couple of pairs of shoes from them just because I try not to buy stuff at full price,
Yeah,
and their stuff tends to go on sale quite a lot at the shoe stores near me.
I will say that. Mine also I got like half off.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, yeah,
for what they are, they're quality. So
yeah. For when I'm spending 20, $30, it's what I expect.
yeah, exactly. So why the fuck did Kanye want to move his Yeezy shoes over to Skechers?
Who knows?
So for all of you not in the know, and this sounds like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode, but here we go. Kanye tried walking into the Skechers corporate building to offer a deal like a partnership with them, similar to what he had with Adidas, and they kept kicking him out.
Mm-hmm. Shoe company Skechers said that West arrived unannounced and without invitation, and that he was engaged in unauthorized filming and was escorted out after a brief conversation. Quote, Skechers is not considering and has no intention of working with West. We condemn his recent divisive remarks and do not tolerate anti-Semitism, or any other form of hate speech.
Which, that's pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Clean to the point.
Yeah.
We don't know why he was here. We didn't ask him to be here. We told him to leave, and he did.
I might just buy a second pair of Skechers now. That's a good corporation. I'm going to buy another product from you. Corporations can have a sale as a treat.
This is
So,
pretty depressing. I don't go on CNN a whole lot. That's
yeah.
where this article is posted. I'm seeing that they have what they call a fear and greed index, where it is what emotion is driving the market right now. And on the fear and greed index, extreme greed is apparently the best motivator for what's driving the market right now.
No shit.
Mm-hmm. It's 100 right now. Greed is winning the battle at 61 out of 100.
I'm going on CNN right now, and I better be able to find that fear and greed index
Uh,
there.
yeah, CNN Business specifically,
Okay, I'm going there
right
right
at the
now.
top.
Waiting for the
Man.
page. Oh my god, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Who decides this?
Literally nothing, I'd imagine. Learn more about this index. Oh, it's just like a tiny little FAQ at the bottom.
This is so weird. So, how is this helpful in any situation? Because I could have told you greed was like everywhere.
No, it's not
Yeah,
at all.
yeah.
That's the dirty secret of the stock market is that the only people who make real better than average gains on it are the people who are able to legally engage in insider trading.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. The average uh, day trader, when you actually look at their earnings, can't outperform an index fund. So, yep.
All hail the index funds, the true runners of this country.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's also that there's a cat that picks stocks. That it's basically random because it's a cat, right?
Yeah,
But because it's random, on average, they outperform uh, traders
no way.
because it's random. So they win on some, they lose on some, but it balances out. Yeah. Yep. It's all some sort of scam.
The stock market is. I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand. Like the why do we
Yeah.
need it anymore?
Oh, we never needed it in the first place.
Oh, that's true too.
I mean, the fact that the fear and greed index is the metric that CNN Business slaps at the top of their homepage, it feels like it's all you need to know. It's greed. People want more money.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would also like some money. So can I get on that fear and greed index?
I don't know. It's gonna be we are living in interesting times where the greed of the economy is outstripping, outpacing the physical limitations of humanity. We've set up this wonderful system that demands revenue year over year, and then forgotten that there's a finite number of dollars in the world and people to earn them.
Of course. You just gotta get
Mm-hmm.
rid of some of those people, and there's more money.
Well, no, you pay the people less.
Nah, dude. Get rid of the people.
It's a complete coincidence that inflation is at about 6% overall, and all of the companies saying they have to raise their prices because of inflation are doubling their prices. It's just inflation. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, dude. Fucking Biden did it.
Yeah, Biden is controlling the inflation in Europe.
Yeah. Dude, have you seen gas prices in Australia? What the fuck, Biden? Like,
Which is amazing because gas prices here are actually like kind of reasonable, relatively speaking.
uh,
Like they're not great, but they should be about 80 cents lower still. But compared to like what's happening in Europe, at least,
my current prediction is that they saw the fucking American Inflation Act and saw just how many green policies were in that, and they're getting fucking scared.
they should.
Yeah.
I mean, all the oil companies are literally basing their product on a finite resource, right?
Yeah.
It will run out eventually, and probably sooner rather than later.
You just gotta run out of it last.
Yep.
So it looks like gas prices in Australia. Are you ready for this?
Yeah. What's up?
6.47 a dollar. I'm sorry, a gallon.
It's a lot.
That's a
Well,
lot.
is that Australian dollars or US?
That's what I'm trying to get a good gauge on. It's not really telling me what currency it's considered. There's like one that says what gas prices are looking like in the US. And I'm like, yeah, that's based off an American dollar, but is that fucking Australian dollar above me or what?
Curious.
Why is it
Okay.
so hard to
I don't know
find?
if this is accurate,
Yo,
but this is um, uh, globalpetrolprices.com trying to aggregate what the price per liter in US dollars. Oh, there we go. I can change it to gallons.
ooh,
So, price per gallon
okay,
in US dollars. The United States average is 402 right now.
that sounds about right.
And Australia is 413. So
413.
basically the same.
Yeah,
So that must be Australian dollars then. Canada is 517. That's rough.
oh Canada.
Where's the top of it in Hong Kong? Holy shit. You want to take a guess what a gallon of gas costs in Hong Kong?
Your firstborn.
Pretty close. $11.13.
Hell no. I'm sorry, the party. The CCP is just won't let you be.
When you look at when you skim past that though, all of the top ones are in Europe, right?
Okay.
Germany 714, UK 715, Singapore, Switzerland, Belgium, Sweden, Greece, Netherlands, Finland, Denmark, Norway. They're all up there like $7 to $8. You're getting hit hard. What we got to do is we got to go to Venezuela. We're going to buy some tanker trucks.
Okay.
We're going to drive them through Central America
Okay.
all the way to Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to fill it up and
Yep.
we're going to drive back.
That sounds like a plan.
Gas in Venezuela is apparently 6 cents per gallon.
You, you give me the vapors, boy.
It's like that Jonah Hill movie where they try to be gun runners in the Middle East. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I do not.
It didn't do very well.
It's a
See if
Jonah
I can
Hill
find
movie.
it. Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure it was Jonah Hill.
Was it Seth Rogen? Because like that's like the
Yeah.
evolved form of Jonah Hill.
Um, I don't think it was with Seth Rogen, but I don't actually know.
Oh, okay.
I'm not finding it. Maybe it wasn't Jonah Hill. It's not a documentary sports movie.
What?
Gun runner movie Jonah Hill. I know this is a thing. War Dogs. Yeah. With Miles Teller. With the war in Iraq raging on, a young man offers his childhood friend a chance to make big bucks by becoming an international arms dealer. Together, they exploit a government initiative that allows businesses to bid on U.S. military contracts. Starting small allows the duo to rake in money and live the high life. They soon find themselves in over their head after landing a $300 million deal to supply Afghan forces. And the gist of it is that because they aren't actual gun runners, they have to go to Iraq themselves and basically do it all by hand.
Mm,
It is tagged in genre as war comedy.
that sounds about right. It's Jonah Hill, dude. You can't have him in a non-funny movie.
It didn't do as bad as I thought it would.
How bad?
61% Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's like, it's fine.
That's tolerable.
Mm-hmm. Being a comedy apparently seems to be what's helping it not be worse because it's like not good, but it's a Jonah Hill comedy, so you go into it expecting that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but one that I have meant to see is the Nicolas Cage movie that is similar in tone, Lord of War,
Lord of War.
where Nicolas Cage is an arms dealer during the end of the Cold War.
Ooh.
Yeah. Also has Jared Leto in it.
Jared Leto is surprisingly in a lot of movies. It's like the Tom Holland
Yeah.
effect.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching I don't remember what we were trying to watch. But my mother and I basically just switched to another movie. Um and we just wanted to watch something just random. We are going through all the options and every listing had fucking Jared Leto in it. Eventually, we
Mm-hmm.
went and settled on American Psycho. Guess who's in that movie and just isn't listed in the main credits?
Is he really?
Yes.
Oh shit, he is. I didn't realize.
I know. I was just like, what kind of Jared Leto? Who is your agent? And may I please have their phone number?
He's busy. Yeah.
Yeah. And the sad thing is, I can't think of that many good movies like where I think Jared Leto really brought that movie out, other than Morbius, because everybody knows Morbius was fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every time I hear him in a movie, it's always from the perspective of being underwhelmed or outright disliking his performance in it. Because I remember, like, obviously Suicide Squad, where he's Joker.
Yeah,
Everyone hated it.
yeah. Hmm.
Recently, he had a role in House of Gucci, where, from what I understand, everyone hated him in that too.
Sounds about right.
Who was he in Dallas Buyers Club? Dallas Buyers Club is a really good movie.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh, it's depressing as fuck, but it's really good. Like if you want a movie that is just really well put together but makes you really sad, Dallas Buyers Club.
What
Nail on the head.
what is it even about?
It is about a group of gay and LGBT people in the 80s during the AIDS epidemic and
Mm,
the fight that they have to get the medication that they need and just the support that they need at all. It's done from the perspective of Ron Woodruff, so all based on true story stuff, played by Matthew McConaughey, who is not gay, but ends up getting AIDS through contact with a hooker, basically, and by just the public perception of the time, sort of is forced into these same groups in order to get the medical care that he needs. And it's just really good in telling the story and just how fucking bleak it was for these poor people to be both dying of a disease that they had no real control over getting and also just being completely ostracized to an even greater extent than they already were because of the lives that they live.
You're making me sad.
It's really good. But yeah, it's depressing.
Like I'm so sad now.
Apparently Jared Leto's also in Fight Club, so there's that.
Oh my god. So I have a personal story about Fight Club, right?
Yeah.
Um I found out there's a local fight club in my area run by
Really?
teenagers.
Okay.
Yeah. And apparently what they do is they go to like the big empty parking lots after like malls close and they have fight club there and they'll like bet on each other and who's going to win against who. And
Like how? Oh, jeez. I don't want to know details. I don't want to be culpable.
I barely know any of the details myself, but I could probably name a few names because apparently one of them was working at the grocery store I used to work at. And I found this
Yeah.
out from one of the workers there because he was bragging about it. I'm like, you mean he broke the only rule of Fight Club?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about Fight Club. Ever since then, I've been thinking about what parking lots to avoid late at night because I do not want to be a witness to that.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of fucked up.
Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
According to the rumors I hear about some of the kids involved, one of them also worked at the store I worked at. I
Hmm.
was like their boss and whatnot, and that
Yeah.
I would not want to pick a fight with that kid. He's big. He's scary.
Mm-hmm.
He could beat me. So what else do we have?
Not a ton of movie releases to talk about.
Shocking.
Black Adam still sucks. Who would have imagined?
You know,
Till still doing well.
as it should.
Yeah. Um, what is this one? Call Jane is a new one that I don't recognize. Uh, Seems to be doing fine. Elizabeth Banks, what was it about? Chicago, 1968, as the city and the nation are poised on the brink of political upheaval. Suburban housewife Joy, played by Elizabeth Banks, lives an ordinary life with her husband and daughter. When Joy's pregnancy leads to a life-threatening heart condition, she must navigate an all-male medical establishment unwilling to terminate her pregnancy in order to save her life. Her journey for a solution leads her to Virginia, played by Sigourney Weaver, independent visionary fiercely committed to women's health, and Gwen, Munwi Musaku, an activist who dreams of a day when all women will have access to abortion regardless of their ability to pay. Joy is so inspired by their work, she decides to join forces with them, putting every aspect of her life on the line.
I love that we've entered this new era in Hollywood where it's either superhero movies or movies that make you remember the past is goddamn miserable.
Mm-hmm. And that we haven't really gotten that far.
We've gotten a lot farther than we should have.
Mm, not far enough.
Not far
But yeah,
enough. Prop 3, Michigan. Thank you very much.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Something else we can talk about. Andor. I have finally gotten around to starting to watch it. And it's surprising that it's like I just kind of assume, given it's a Disney thing, that it would do the Marvel TV series thing of like 6 to 8 episodes and then call it quits.
Yeah.
But it's much more of a real TV season, which is weird because the way that they're telling their stories doesn't really line up with that. Where there's like a clear divide in the narrative that they're telling. Where so we're up to episode 8 out of 10. Oh no, sorry, 8 out of 12. Yeah. Um, with the first 6 episodes being a very well laid out sort of like heist thing. I don't want to give away any more than that because it's really good. I highly recommend it. At least
Okay.
the first 6 episodes,
Okay.
and they work narratively, so that if you just like stop watching after the sixth one, you're not missing anything. It ties itself up pretty cleanly at that point, actually, before it goes on past there. Beyond that, We're up to episode 8 now. And it is very much in progress. This is not a serial, you know. All the episodes connect together, and they are, in the sort of first act part of it right now, right?
Okay. Hmm.
It's structured a lot more like a traditional movie where these first two episodes, not a lot happens, and it's kind of the worse for it. One thing that stood out to me though, is that the music changes dramatically, where I had to like do a double take because I thought I played the wrong video. Everything up to that point is very Star Wars and what you would expect in terms of, big sweeping orchestral pieces, very John Williams. I mean, everybody kind of knows what Star Wars music sounds like.
Yeah.
And
Operatic.
seven, yeah,
Yeah.
seven opens with what I can only describe as like synth pop,
What?
and it's very out of place. And it really feels like they didn't know how to go from the end of episode 6 to the start of episode 7, and they were just kind of like, well, shit, we're out of time. Let's just squish it together and call it good enough. And it's very awkward
That.
from like a tone perspective.
So I'm not against the idea of Star Wars breaking the traditional mold of the movies for the TV
Mm-hmm.
shows.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm,
Oh yeah.
I'm not against the idea of that, but I just
Mm-hmm.
want to know, like, I don't know. I need to hear the synth pop to get a better perspective on it.
Let me see if I can find it. I'm sure people have bootlegged this shit all over YouTube. It's unfortunate because there's so much of it that's just like really, really good that it stands out. Okay. Let me go back a couple seconds. I can at least send you a link here to the audio at least.
Ooh.
As it's time stamped to where it like actually gets kind of weird. It's I don't like it. It's out of place and just kind of wrong.
I'll have to listen to that after the show. Otherwise, the
Yep.
audience will hear me, and
Let
then
me, let
Disney
me
will hear me, and
yeah,
they will
of
come after
course.
our ass.
Let me see if I can find uh this. Can I find the same thing for the first episode? I'm wondering. Just to give a comparison. Um, no, that's fan made. That's not what I want. Because the rest of the music is quite excellent.
Is it now?
It is. It's very good. There's a piece they do at the start of each episode. I guess, you have Disney Plus, I assume, right?
I do not.
You don't? Oh, that's a shame. It's Disney Plus, of course. There's a bit that they do at the start of it that's just really nice and sets from like a music perspective, being both familiar to what we know about Star Wars, in terms of the presentation of it, but also being very clearly different. So it's effective. It's done well, except for this specific piece that is completely out of place.
I guess I do have a big question.
Yes.
We know John Williams is kind of like retiring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are they going to do for future music for Star Wars? Are they going to
They're gonna
keep.
AI it.
Yeah, I was about to say, are they going to keep imitating John Williams this whole time? Or, and hear me out, they could
Yeah.
actually let Star Wars music develop past John Williams for once in its fucking life.
Didn't they basically do that with what was it? I thought there was something that they like did AI John Williams
What?
in episode 9. I might be wrong. Where it was like they needed to like take something and adapt it for a soundtrack, and rather than, I might be mistaken or getting it mixed up with some other piece of media. There's something like that relatively recently where they were adapting something to be used from the original piece of media to a soundtrack, and they didn't have like the complete versions of some of this, and rather than just like talking to the guy that made the music or redoing stuff, they like AI stitched it together to fill in the gaps.
It reminds me of when Google made that Bach bot.
Mm-hmm. It's the same idea. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Andor is good.
Good.
I hope it picks up after the couple of last episodes that drag a bit. That's the big thing, is that like exposition and world building is fine as long as it builds to something. And it hasn't built to anything yet with these last couple of episodes. And it's just made them kind of boring, especially after how good the first ones were.
Hmm.
So hopefully it can only be up, right?
I mean, at this point, everything is so oversaturated in Disney's corner where they're making too much too fast and they're not trying enough new. I guess the only way we can go is up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, am I alone in feeling that?
No, no, I wouldn't disagree.
Thank
Yeah.
God. What else do we have?
That's about all that I have.
Okay. I mean, that's about all that I have as well, because I figured we were going to touch on the main things, like
Yeah.
Ozyemandias and Elon buying a bad investment.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a bit slow otherwise.
Yeah. In that case, happy Halloween, ladies and gentlemen. The scariest thing about living is that you have to make it to the next day. I'm the infamous Ryan, and I'm a schmo.
I'm Kyle, and I've been a Schmo.